Hi guys.
Hiya.
Okay.
Hi Joan.
Hiya.
You okay?
Yes, thanks, and you?
Yeah, lovely weather.
Beautiful. What the doctor ordered. Super duper.
Been out in the garden?
Yeah, lunchtime I was out, yes. Yeah. Doing a bit of weeding.
Hi David.
Hello. Let me just turn it
Hi.
up.
Hi Katie. Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. Hello, Katie.
Hello. Are you okay?
Oh.
Oh. Woof, woof.
You can't.
Ready for downward dog.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Gorgeous. Oh.
They will come later, probably.
Ah.
You see through those, Joe?
Hey.
You see through your glasses. Hi, Bethan.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, you.
Yes,
Hiya.
thank you.
Okay, so it's just gone 6 o'clock, so I think we'll get started. My screen's really hazy. I don't know if that's just because my phone's really dirty. Hang on a second. I'm just putting it to see if it makes a difference. Hang on.
That's better. Yes.
Is that better?
Yeah.
So
In my specs, thinking it was my specs.
it's got some kind of hazy filter to make you look a bit younger. So welcome to our yin yoga session. If you're not familiar with yin yoga, if you've not done any yin yoga before, it is very different. It's very still, it's very passive in its nature, and we're not going to be moving around. It's also really intense, so if you're a beginner, you might struggle, not just physically it's not necessarily demanding or challenging, but mentally sometimes it can be quite a struggle. So just do what you can with it. Tonight's practice does involve some pretty intense postures. We'll be focusing mostly on our hips, gallbladder, meridian, lots of that kind of thing going on. So without further ado, just before we start, a couple of props that you might need. First of all, you're probably going to need either a block, or if you don't have a block, it's not the end of the world. If you've got a blanket, that would be really helpful. And ideally, if you've got a bolster cushion, then that's just perfect. But don't worry, if you haven't got any of those, a blanket will suffice for most things. So let's get cracking anyway. We're going to actually start off by the wall. So if you've got a wall space, brilliant. If you've not, maybe you could just have your legs up on a chair for this. I'm just going to mute everybody before I disappear off to the other side of the room. Okay, lovely. Cool. Oops, hang on. I don't know what's happening. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is to start off by the wall. You want to have either a blanket or your mat close up next to the wall. If you're on a wooden floor like I am, just so you don't get a cold bum really, And you're going to wriggle in right next to the wall, and we're going to come down into the Viparita Karani. So you're leaning back on your hands, and you're just going to raise one leg, kind of pivot around, and then you'll raise the other leg up. So wriggle and jiggling close to the wall, but not so close that you feel like your knees are locked, not so close that you feel as though your lower back is compromised in any way. So if you want to, you can have a slight bend in the knees to allow the lower back to release. If you need to, you can be slightly further away from the wall just so that the legs are in a more comfortable position. And then all we're going to do here is either place the hands on the belly, or you could take your arms over behind your head and just extend the arms out behind you. Wherever you place your arms, you want the arms to feel completely relaxed. And then you're just going to close your eyes, and you're just going to let gravity work its magic on your body. So feeling the sensation of the legs draining. And you might feel this or think of this in terms of lymphatic fluid draining from the feet, the ankles, down towards the lymph nodes in the groin. But you might think of it in terms of energy flowing down towards the pelvis, towards the lower chakras in the energy body. Just enjoy being in that shape. It's very, very restful, has a very calming effect on the central nervous system. Probably start to notice that your breath slows down. And as we move out of that fight or flight part of our central nervous system into the control of the part of the nervous system which is concerned with resting and digesting, processing, you might start to notice your belly gurgle and rumble a little bit. That's quite normal as well. Letting go of your day, letting go of any kind of feeling of momentum or rushing, and just allowing yourself to be here, to be still. So no effort involved in this pose whatsoever. Really restorative posture. We get so much out, but we put very little in. Now, for the last couple of minutes of this pose, if you have the luxury of a wide wall space like I do here, you might like to just take your legs out to the side. Just open the legs into a wide straddle. Push your heels away and then just let the feet flop. So you start to get a feeling of opening up into the adductor muscles and the inner thighs, inside of the knees, the hips, the groins. Shouldn't feel like you're locking out your knees. If you are, then maybe you're too close to the wall. But it might be you've not got enough space, so you can just keep the legs raised and the feet together. Or you could bring the soles of your feet together and slide your feet down the wall so your knees go out to the side, kind of like Supta Baddha Konasana, but with the feet on the wall. Wherever you are, just watching your breath. Smooth inhale, one slow, steady exhalation. And we'll just be there for another 5 slow, deep breaths. Try to stay connected with your breath. Focusing on the exhalation. If you've taken the legs out wide, then just slide the legs together and slowly, slowly bend your knees and just bring your knees down towards your chest. You might want to wriggle away from the wall a little bit and then just drop over to your right hand side and bring yourself around. Okay, so we're going to come now into a standing position, which is really unusual for a yin practice. This is a posture that I'm working with a lot in my own yoga practice at the moment, and to try and help me to work through a hamstring injury that's nothing to do with yoga, may I add. It's a very, very deep forward bend. You can back off from this and you can make it a lot easier if you need to. I'm going to show you first. So I'm going to stand up and I'm going to come in towards the wall, and I'm just going to walk forward. So I've got my back against the wall. I'm just going to walk in, and so that the back of my shoulders comes into contact with the wall. I've got this great big baggy sweatshirt on, so it's getting in my face, I can't talk. Okay, so I'm dropping my chin down towards my chest, and I'm just walking in so that the back of my shoulders are resting against the wall. If you're really flexible in your hamstrings, then you can have straight legs. For most people, you might want to have a slight bend in the knee. If you want to make this more intense, you just wriggle and jiggle your way into the wall. So eventually, you're bringing your hips up against the wall. If you want to make it a little less intense, then you're just slightly backed up away from the wall. So it's just the back of your shoulders that are in contact with the wall. Okay, and we can bend the knee slightly if that feels like the right place to be. So just walking yourself in. Another thing to add here, if you do have issues with your blood pressure and you find that being in a forward bend for a long period of time makes you feel really lightheaded and dizzy, then what you can do instead is to just come so that you've got your forearms on the wall like this, rest your head on the wall, and your head is pretty much the same height as your hips. So you're just leaning into the wall here, and that might be a better position. You could even do that with your arms folded on a table if you've got a table handy, or onto the back of a chair. Okay, so just finding a shape that works for you. It's difficult because I can't come round and help you and adjust you as I normally would in class, but just taking yourself into that shape. Finding your edge. It's pretty intense, so we won't be here for quite so long as we hold some of the poses. Turning your attention to your breath, just trying to soften your breath. So if we imagine that we've taken the lymphatic fluid from the feet, obviously the lymph works with movement and with gravity, so it doesn't have a pump to move it around the body like the heart does. So when we're shifting the lymph through our system, it's working very much with gravity. So in our first position, an inversion, draining from the legs down into the lymph nodes in the groin, and then the visualization here is draining from the groin towards the heart. We have lymph nodes in the abdomen and in the armpits, in the chest, around the throat. Stay with your breath, particularly focusing on the exhalation. As your body kind of melts into this shape, you might find that you can just snuggle a little bit closer in towards the wall after a little bit of time, but don't force. Nothing should feel locked or strained. Nothing should be trembling or shaking. And as always, particularly important with our yin practice, you should be breathing in and out through your nose, working with what we call Samavritti pranayama in the first couple of minutes. So your inhalation and your exhalation are of even length. And as we hold in the pose, we start to extend the exhalation. So in the final minute or so of the pose, we're really lengthening out the out breath, and that's when we get those deep releases. What we certainly want to avoid is holding on to our exhalation and not allowing ourselves to breathe out fully. Good. Let's just have another 3 breaths in this shape. And then rather than coming up out of it, what we're going to do is we're going to drop down into a squat. So just walk your feet a little bit back away from the wall. Let your knees bend and just drop down to a crouched position. If your knees don't like being in that crouched position, just sit down on your bum. But the idea is you don't want to suddenly stand up from there, otherwise you get a bit of a sudden blood rush to the head. So just waiting for your blood pressure just to normalise, and then slowly sit down on your bum and come into the middle of your mat. Okay, so take another couple of forward bends here. First of all, you might want to grab your bolster cushion. You might also want to grab your blanket, and we're going to come into a wide version of our child's pose. So knees out wide to the side. I particularly like to work with my bolster cushion here. You could use blankets or just cushions off your sofa, whatever you've got to hand. And I'm just going to bring this close in to my hips, and I'm just going to lie forwards over it. So the knees are really wide, big toes are together, heels are dropping out. If you're very flexible and you come all the way down, you can just rest on one cheek. It might be that your forehead just comes down to the cushion. It might be that you need a little bit more height, in which case it's quite nice to prop a block underneath the bolster so it's on an angle like this. And just let the weight of your belly drop down onto that support. It's a very nurturing posture to be in. Front of the body, just softening against the support of the cushion. Notice if there's any place in your body where you feel as though physically you're gripping or holding on. And try to resist that. As you exhale, just see if you can release and relax a little bit more into the pose with every breath. So you might find as you hold in these poses that you drop into some deep tranquil space, and all that exists is your breath and sensation in your physical body. You might find that your head's all over the place and your mind is just skipping from thought to thought like a monkey in a tree. Just notice. Doesn't matter. It's not that one is right and one is wrong. No one's giving out gold stars at the end of the class. It's just an observation to be made. So maybe today I feel restless. Maybe today I have a restless mind. Maybe today I feel peaceful and tranquil. Maybe today I can allow myself just to drop into the stillness between my breath. And all of us will experience both of those things from day to day. Couple more breaths here. We're not going to stay in this pose for too long. Just take a couple more breaths. And then when you're ready, you're going to walk your hands in slowly, slowly, come up. And we can just move the balls of the cushion out of the way for now. Put to one side. And we're just going to come onto all fours, bring your knees together. Just slide your right leg back, push back through your right heel, just to open into the back of your right knee. Bit of engagement through your quadricep muscles. Most of the time in our yin yoga, we're keeping the muscles relaxed. So yeah, just a little bit of engagement, pressing back through that foot. Good. And then release your knee down. Same thing on the other side. Tuck the left toes under, push back through the heel. Just feel that opening into the back of your left knee. Good. Lovely. And then pop your knee back down. So we're going to come into our pigeon pose. And I know for some of you this is a bit of a nemesis, and for some of us, I love this pose. I could sleep in this pose. It's one of my favourite yoga postures, but I know that that's not the case for everybody. Okay, so I'm going to bring my right knee forward in between my thumbs. My right heel lines up behind my left wrist. And I'm going to slide my left leg back. Now for me, I've got my right hip on the floor here. If your hips are a little bit tight, then that might not be the case. Let me just turn around so that I can show you a little bit better. Okay, so if you find when you come to that position that this side of your bum is kind of raised up, then what you could do is wedge your block or a rolled up blanket or whatever underneath that hip for a little bit of support. Equally, if you're very open in your hips, then what you might want to do is bring that foot further forward. So eventually, your foot and your knee are parallel to the short edge of your mat in front of you. And then we can either stay on the hands or we can drop down to the floor, okay? If that's not working for your knees at all, if it feels really uncomfortable, bring yourself around onto your back. You're going to take that right leg, hook your heel over your left knee, and you could put that left foot against a wall, which is quite a nice way of working if this pigeon pose isn't right for you. So you're finding your edge, you're finding the edge of your range of movement. And then you're allowing yourself to soften into it, trying to let go of any muscular effort, any pulling or forcing or straining, any tensing up that's holding you back from dropping into the pose. So it might be that your forehead is on the floor, it might be that you're slightly raised on your forearms. Try and use the forearms to press into the mat a little bit, just to take your weight back into your hips, so you're not overloading that front knee. Slow the breath right down. So probably you'll feel this through the outside seam of your right thigh and into the outside of your right hip. That's your gallbladder meridian. Gallbladder, particularly relevant at this time of year, working with springtime and the element of wood associated with regrowth, renewal, new beginnings, fresh perspective. Breathe deeply into the outside of that right hip. Feels almost like you were inflating a balloon there as you inhale, and then as you exhale, you're just letting the air out and allowing your hip to soften little by little. Well into the final minute of this pose now. Just really lengthening out your exhalation. Slowing that out breath down. Feel your awareness gliding down the out breath right to the very last whisper of each exhalation. And slowly, slowly, you're going to bring yourself up. Using your hands, just walk the hands in. If you're on your back, just change sides. Maybe bring your knees into your chest for a moment first. I'm just going to slide back onto the hands and knees. Maybe just round the back into our cat pose for a moment. Open the opposite way. A couple more times. If you're on your back, just rocking side to side. And then let's take that on the other side. So you're going to bring your left knee forward in between your thumbs. Could well be that it feels very different on this side. Maybe you want to bring that foot slightly further forward. Maybe you want to bring your knee out behind your left wrist. We're going to slide the right leg back. So we're trying to keep the pelvis level. Remember, it's like you have a glass of water balanced on the back of your sacrum. So you don't want to feel that you're falling to your left in order to get the left hip on the floor. Much better to wedge something underneath your hip on that left side so you feel your right groin is dropping down towards the ground as well. And then we just be on the forearms, or you can let your head drop down to the mat. And there's just that little bit of pressure with the arms. Just dropping the weight a little bit further back into the hips. Tune into your breath. And at first the breath is even and steady. So we find our edges. Tuning into that sensation in the outside of the left hip. If you do a lot of running or cycling, I find that this area is particularly tight to the IT band, the outside of the thigh, and the TFL just up in the front of the hip there. Gets really tight in the piriformis, the outside of your bum. Energetically, all still linked in with that same gallbladder meridian, that same energy line. Let's really start to lengthen out those exhalations now. Slowing everything down, just letting yourself drop a little deeper with every out breath. Well done. We're just going to slowly press through the hands, walk your hands in, just slide your left leg back so you're back on all fours. And this time, instead of rounding the spine, we're just going to wag the tail from side to side, just let your hips sway from one side to the other. And then just sit back onto your heels, lovely stretch out through the spine. Good. And bring yourself up. Okay, so we've worked in our pigeon pose. We've already started to target this area through the outside of the thigh. This next posture is very similar, but sorry, Katie, even more intense. Okay, so this is what we refer to as double pigeon, and it is a very, very strong pose. If you're new to yoga, I am going to show you something much simpler that you can do instead. Okay, so I'm going to start with the easy version. If you want to be a bit more gentle with your hips, you're going to start off with your legs extended. You could have a little bit of height under the hips. You could sit on a blanket here if you want to. And you are going to bend your right knee, and you're going to slide your right foot underneath your left knee. Okay, so my ankle is directly underneath the back of my knee, and this knee is out to the side here. And then you just cross your legs. Okay, so I'm trying to bring my left heel underneath my right knee. Now, you probably can't see very well with this camera angle, but it's kind of like folding the arms like this, rather than in, say, Sukhasana, where they've got the legs crossed in a bit closer, where you'd have your arms like this. Okay, so we're much, much further forward, and this right leg is kind of parallel to the edge of your mat. Okay, so you look down, you've got a triangle in between your legs. Okay, if you wanted to take this into what we call our double pigeon, then what you would do, instead of having this leg just crossed in front, you would lift the leg, and this is really important, you lift the leg so you're moving from your hip. You never lift the foot so that you're moving from your knee joint. Okay, so we lift the whole leg, we place the foot on top of the opposite knee. So now I've got my right heel, so right left heel stacked on top of my right knee, and vice versa. Okay, so hands are bracing you here. Okay, it's really intense. If you've come into that and you're just thinking, what on earth? Don't want to be here anymore, come out. Okay, and just tuck that foot underneath. If it's kind of doable, but you're not entirely sure, what's quite nice is a kind of intermediate thing is if you put a blanket or a block or a cushion underneath that top knee, just gives you a little bit of support, maybe makes it a little bit more doable. Okay, so it's going to be a shorter hold. Okay, we're going to just, first of all, just press the fingers into the floor in front, let your chin drop towards your chest, be with it. Breathe into it. Some pretty intense sensations going on in that right hip now. Slow, deep, even breath. And of course, I'm sure you've already guessed where we might take this. Be very, very careful with your knees here. It should all be about the hips. And if you're feeling intense sensation in the hips, but you feel that you can navigate that sensation, you can maybe explore that sensation, you could see what happens if you walk the arms out in front. But that might just be a step too far, and you can just stay upright. Focus on your exhale here, using your Ujjayi breathing. Letting go of whatever you're holding in those hips. We do gather an awful lot of tension in our hips. We store a lot of anxiety and fear in our hips. Let it go. You might feel a bit of an emotional as well as a physical release with this. It's a very intense posture. Listen to the sound of your breath, like the sound of distant waves guiding you through. Smile inwardly to yourself, reminding yourself that this too shall pass. These sensations in your hips are only temporary. You can be with it for another 5 breaths, maybe. And slowly walk your hands in and bring yourself up. So we'll unfold the legs. So you can start by just straightening out the left leg, and untucking the right leg, legs a little shake. And then leaning on your hands, just to bend the knees, and we're just going to do that kind of windscreen wiper thing with the legs, just dropping from one side to the other. So let the knees kind of sway, releasing the hips. Feel like you're not really doing anything, but we're rotating the femoral head, the head of the thigh bone, the femur, in the socket, in that full deep rotation. Lovely. Okay, slide your legs out straight again. Little shake. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So you just tuck your foot underneath the opposite knee, and then maybe you're just folding the legs. So you've got your heels underneath each opposite knee. Maybe you're going to go into the full pose. I've done it on that side already. Maybe you're going to go into the full pose. Raise your leg up high, and then placing your right heel on top of your left knee. So for me, this is definitely my tighter side. So I'm just gonna listen to my own advice and wedge a little cushion in underneath that knee. And you can stay upright, and you can just be in that upright position, thinking about shifting the weight to the front of your sitting bones. Or if you want to, you can bring the hands out in front. Remember, we never want to overload our knees. This is all about creating sensation in the hips. So use your hands just to press the floor away a little bit, just so that you feel the weight dropping back into the hips. Listen to your breath. Smooth, even waves. Using your exhalation to allow yourself to release anything that comes up, whether that's physical sensation or whether it's emotions that are stored and gathered in your hips. Allow yourself to release them. You might even want to take some breaths out through your mouth here. It's really intense. So one of the magical things about our yin yoga practice is it helps us to navigate sensations. Physical sensations in the mind that arise when we're challenging the body in these shapes, and then asking the body to just be with that and be still and relax even. But also it helps us to learn to navigate emotions that arise when we're still. And sometimes when difficult emotions arise, it's easier just to shut the door on them, and push them away, force them out. I don't want to think about that. It's too difficult for me right now. It's just not where I want to be. I'm not asking you to open the Pandora's box, but it's trying to just allow yourself to be with whatever comes up and to acknowledge it and to notice its impermanence. So sometimes things feel pretty intense. Sometimes things, whether they're physical or emotional, feel quite unmanageable. What is essential is to acknowledge the impermanence of that. Whatever it is will pass. Our feelings, our emotions are like visitors. Some of them come and they stay, and we'd like them to stay a little longer. Some of them come and we open the door and immediately we don't want them there. But none of them are moving in. None of them have got the key. That's yours. 3 more breaths. Be with it. Breathe into it. Let it go. Slowly, slowly. Inhale. If you've come forward, make your way up. I'm going to lean back on the hands as we unfold our double pigeon or our square pose. Take the feet out nice and wide again. Just let the knees rock gently from side to side. Just moving quite tentatively here. The hips have been in the same position for quite a while. Just releasing and opening. Good. And then stretch your legs out in front. And give them a little shake. Good. Okay, so going to be a lot more gentle now. I had some quite unwelcome guests in my hips there myself, so feeling that one with you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is to take either a bolster cushion, so long as your bolster's not too big. I've got my little mini one here for this. Or if you wanted, you could use a blanket. If you don't have a blanket, you could use a block. Okay, so you're just going to make like a little kind of sausage shape. I'm going to actually use a blanket. It'll be a bit more supportive. Okay, so the higher your support is, the more intense obviously this is going to be. I think this blanket's going to be just about perfect at this height. My yoga studio is such a mess. It's a good job you can see me. Good tidy up. Okay, so I'm going to take this behind me and I'm just going to lift up so that it's underneath the back of my sacrum. So just lift this weighty baggy thing up so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so it's just underneath the back of my sacrum. I'm going to extend my left leg out along the floor, right underneath the back of the pelvis. And I already have a little bit of a feeling of opening up into the front of this left hip. The left leg is relaxed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my right knee and I'm just going to draw it in towards my chest. Let go of the left leg. So you can let your foot flop out to the side. And what you're looking for is a little bit of a feeling of opening into the front of your hip. If you're not feeling anything at all, you might want to be slightly higher with that support underneath the back of the pelvis. Or you might find if you move it slightly further down towards your tailbone, it helps you to just get into that space. It's not intense, it's not extreme. It might be quite nice to take your right knee out to the side just a little bit as well, so you can aim it towards your armpits. Keep on softening that left leg. Keep on softening your left knee, the muscles of your thigh, quadriceps. You're just opening softly into the front of the hip. Slow, deep breath. It might be nice to interlace your fingers around that knee, so using both hands. And sometimes people get intense sensations in the back of the knee on the extended leg. That can be if your knee joint is kind of locking out. So if you're hypermobile particularly, and that's happening, it can be useful just to support the back of that knee. So if you are getting a lot of sensation in the back of your knee on your straight leg, then you can put a bolster or a rolled up blanket or a towel, cushion, something just to support the back of the knee. So we're not about knees, we're about hips in this practice. Well, we're coming towards the final minute of this pose. I'm just thinking about lengthening your out breath just a little bit more. And then to change sides, you're just gonna slide the left foot in. Just rest for a moment, both feet on the floor. You might wanna have a little adjust of that cushion or padding underneath the back of your pelvis. And then slide the right leg away, just let the right leg be heavy. And bring the left knee in towards your chest. And if you're not feeling very much in the front of that extended leg, you can bring your bent knee out towards your armpits. It's not intense, it's not extreme, it's just a soft opening through the front of the hip. Breathe into it. Let that extended leg be very, very heavy. So notice where your mind goes with this pose, because sometimes when a pose is maybe less intense, for some of you this might be intense, but sometimes when the pose is perhaps a little bit more restful, then that's when the mind starts to wander off. When a pose is really intense, it's holding our attention, it's holding our awareness, it's kind of all we can think about. So it stops the mind from doing that monkey thing, swinging from branch to branch. So if your mind is a little bit busy, just acknowledge, just notice, where does it go? And just gradually bring it back each time. Three more breaths. And then slowly slide your right leg in, bring your left foot down. Just lift your hips for a moment, pressing through the feet, activating through the glutes, through the quads. Legs feel active as you slide that block out, and then just stay there for a moment in your bridge pose. Nice little bit of work going on through the legs. And then roll your spine down slowly, slowly from the top all the way down to the tip of your tailbone. Pause for a moment there, and we'll prepare for our next pose, which is a twist. Really lovely twisting posture. Again, it's going to work into the pelvis and into the hips. Two ways that you can work with this. I'll show you the first, which is quite intense maybe, and the second, which is a little bit easier. So I'm going to bring my knees in towards my chest, and then I'm going to cross my right leg over my left leg. So I'm crossing the thighs as high up as it's comfortable. Then I'm going to take my arms out at shoulder height. And so I've got the right leg on top. It acts like a lever to draw the left leg over, and I'm going to take both knees across towards my right elbow. My head's turning to the left, and just letting the weight of the legs drop down. You could put a block or a cushion underneath to support the weight of your legs if you feel this shoulder is coming, this left shoulder is coming off the floor. If that's just too intense, then working just with the left knee in towards, right leg is straight, and taking yourself across into a more gentle twist with the right leg extended. So whichever works for you. Just taking a moment to settle into that shape. Just feel the weight of your left shoulder dropping down. Feel the weight of your legs moving across. We feel a nice little opening into the outside of your left hip here, the outside of the sacrum. Again, if that feels really intense, you can have something to just support the weight of the legs. So kind of general, dull, achy feeling around the outside of the hip is what we would expect. If you start to feel pinching, stabbing sensations in the inside of your groin, then certainly back off. It should be all about these big muscles in the outside of your bum, stretching and opening through the glutes, through that little piriformis as well, quite a lot of sensation. Starting to lengthen out your exhalation here. And slowly, slowly roll back to center. Use your abdominal muscles to draw you in. Uncross your legs, hug your knees, rock from side to side. And we'll come into that same position on the other side. So left leg crosses over the right, so crossing your thighs as high up as you can. Arms out, the shoulder height, and just let the knees drop over towards the left elbow. So your head turns towards the right. If you feel on this side that your right shoulder is lifting, just take your cushion or support underneath your knees. So just observing, just noticing whatever comes up, be it physical or emotional, just acknowledging it, questioning it. What is this? What am I feeling? What is this emotion? What is this sensation that's arisen? Giving it a simple label or a name. And allowing yourself to be with it. At the same time, acknowledging its impermanence. We're well into the final minute of this posture now. Really lengthening out through your exhalation. And then switching on your abdominal muscles, pulling your belly back towards your spine as you roll back to center and cross the legs. And bring your knees into your chest and have a little wriggle from side to side. Really lovely to just massage out through the lower back. Let's draw some lovely big oval shapes on the lower back. And go around the opposite way. And then bring the feet down onto the mat. Now, your choice. You can, if you wish to, from here, just lay out in Shavasana. Maybe grab a blanket to chuck over yourself. Maybe pop your socks on if you haven't got them on already. And just take the arms out to the side into your Shavasana. Where I'm going to go instead after that particular practice is into a forward-facing Shavasana. I really like doing this at the end of my yin practice. So I'm going to take my bolster cushion just here and I'm going to lay it across the centre of my mat. So still lying on your back, you might just choose to lie on your belly, and the cushion, the support is underneath the front of your pelvis, underneath the hips. The big toes are pointing inwards, the heels drop out to the side. So just resting down in your belly. You might want to turn your head to one side. You might want to rest your forehead on your hands. So why would we choose to be here after such a practice? When we release holding in the hips, as I said before, sometimes we release feelings of fear and anxiety that we've been holding in the hips. And that can make us feel quite open, quite vulnerable. When we lie on our back, maybe that feels a little bit much sometimes. When we lie on our front, it sends a signal to the brain that we're safe, we're held. It's like someone's giving you a hug. The front of your body is safe and protected, your internal organs against the earth. That cushion just supporting the hips and applying gentle pressure to the lymph nodes in the abdomen and in the groin area. So again, working with the central nervous system to take us deeper into that state of relaxation. If there's pressure in your knees while you're lying on your belly, try having your legs wider apart, see if that's a little bit more comfortable.
As a bee seeks nectar from all kinds of flowers, seek teachings everywhere. Like a deer that finds a quiet place to graze, seek seclusion to digest all that you have gathered. And like a mad one, beyond all limits, go where you please and live like a lion, completely free of all fear. To start to lengthen your inhalation now, feel yourself drawing strength and energy back into your body. Drawing in light, drawing in life. Feeling that energy flowing into every organ, every muscle, every cell. Start to have a little wriggle in your toes and your fingers. If you're on your back, maybe bringing your knees in towards your chest. If you're on your front, in your own time, you can just bring yourself into child's pose. Just push the blanket or the cushion out of the way and slowly bring yourself around and come into a seated position. Either with your legs out straight, or you can kneel, or you can cross the legs. And we're going to close with 3 calming, grounding breaths. Hands come together at the heart center. We're going to inhale as the arms float up. Hands touch above the head, and as you exhale, draw your hands down the midline of your body, like a wave of tranquility flowing down over you. Inhale, the arms float up. Again, the hands touch above the head. As you exhale, lower the arms down. One last time. Inhale, arms float up. Exhale, this time touching your thumbs to your forehead and to your heart. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me this evening. Just to add that poem, go where you please, but go there in your mind right now. I hope everyone's coping all right with the seclusion and the stillness. I really do feel myself that my yin yoga practice, all of my yoga helps, but my yin yoga practice especially is really supportive in this difficult time, helping you to navigate all sorts of emotions that come up. So let's unmute everybody. See how you've all got on.
Sorry I was late.
It's all right, don't worry, my love. Okay. How's everybody doing?
Fine, thank you, Mary.
You all right? Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. How'd you get on with your double pigeons?
Yeah, fine.
Really hard.
Interesting.
Mary, how could you after our conversation?
Sorry, that was 2 of you at once. What did you say, Katie?
I said, how could you do that to me?
Do you not like that? I don't like that.
Oh, my love, you need to see me trying it. I'm hopeless.
It's better out than in, Katie.
Definitely, definitely.
I have to do a little one-to-one video link, and we can yeah. Have a look. Were you all right with that, Sarah?
I found that really emotional, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is. Are you okay?
Yeah. That one in particular, I found it was good, but yeah, it was definitely quite powerful.
Yeah. So it's really common to hold an awful lot of emotion, anxiety, fear. It's all there in your hips, tightened, and I find that a really intense posture.
Yeah. Feel that one with you. As one of my teachers used to say, farts are like feelings, better out than in. Or is it the other way around? Feelings are like farts, probably.
Sorry, Thank you very much.
Lovely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Nice.